He walked into the restaurant without imagining that his life was about to change forever. A man accustomed to luxury, with more money than he could ever spend, but carrying a secret that few people knew. Then, as he looked around, his eyes fixed on a young waitress hastily cleaning tables, he froze. His heart raced. She had the same birthmark he had hidden since childhood. And when she approached and looked directly at him, her words made time stand still. "Are you my father?" And what happened next would change both their lives forever. Thomas Callahan straightened his Italian silk tie before checking his Patek Philippe watch. Still 20 minutes before his investors would arrive. Perfect timing for a scotch to calm his nerves. The stakes were high tonight. The Riverside Heights project would cement his legacy as Chicago's most influential real estate developer. "Your usual, Mr. Callahan." The bartender at the Golden Crown already had the Macallan 25 in hand. "Make it a double, Kyle." Thomas drummed his manicured fingers on the mahogany bar. At 55, Thomas embodied success. Tailored suit, salt and pepper hair artfully styled, commanding presence that turned heads when he entered a room. The Golden Crown, with its crystal chandeliers and gold-rimmed plates, was the perfect setting for Chicago's elite, his territory. Taking his drink, he settled into his reserved corner booth. The restaurant hummed with quiet conversation and the occasional clink of fine china from his vantage point. Thomas could observe without being observed, a skill that had served him well in business and life. His gaze drifted across the dining room, absently noting the usual crowd of business executives and old money. Then he saw her, a young waitress, maybe early 20s, moved between tables with a quiet grace that seemed out of place among the other staff. Something about her posture, the careful way she placed each dish, caught his attention. Dark hair fell in waves past her shoulders, and when she turned slightly, Thomas noticed her features. High cheekbones, eyes slightly tilted at the corners. His heart skipped a beat. Those features, they reminded him of someone he'd spent decades trying to forget. Thomas took a large swallow of scotch, feeling it burn down his throat. Impossible. He was imagining things. The girl approached a nearby table, and as she reached to pour water, her sleeve rode up slightly. That's when Thomas saw it. A birthmark on her inner wrist, shaped like a half moon. The same mark he kept hidden beneath his watch. His glass froze halfway to his lips. Cold sweat broke out across his forehead. 24 years of carefully constructed distance collapsed in an instant. "Mr. Callahan, are you feeling well?" Kyle had appeared with a water pitcher. "I'm fine," Thomas managed, but his voice sounded strange to his own ears. "Who's that waitress? The one with the long dark hair?" "Emma, she's new. Started about a month ago. College student, I think." Emma. The name hit him like a physical blow. Rachel had always said, if they had a daughter, she'd name her Emma. Thomas couldn't take his eyes off her. 23 years old. It would be the right age. The resemblance to Rachel was unmistakable now that he looked more closely. And that birthmark. "Would you like me to send her over for another drink?" Kyle asked. "No," Thomas said too quickly, then composed himself. "No, that's all right." But fate had other plans. As Emma turned from her table, her eyes swept across the room and met his. A flash of recognition crossed her face, not of him personally, but of something else. Her eyes dropped to his wrist, where his watch had shifted, revealing the edge of his own half-moon mark. Thomas quickly adjusted his watch, but it was too late. Emma stood frozen, staring at him with widening eyes. Then, with deliberate steps, she walked directly to his table. "Can I help you with something?" Thomas asked, his voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. "Your wrist," she said quietly. "That mark, I have the same one." Thomas felt the room spin slightly. A coincidence. Many people have similar birthmarks. "My mother told me it was rare, that it runs in families." Emma's voice trembled slightly, but her gaze remained fixed on him. "She said my father had the same mark." "I don't know what you're talking about," Thomas said, reaching for his drink, noticing with dismay how his hand shook. "My mother was Rachel Parker." The name, spoken aloud after so many years, made Thomas flinch visibly. The glass slipped from his fingers, spilling amber liquid across the white tablecloth. You knew her, Emma said. It wasn't a question. Thomas looked around frantically, but the restaurant's dim lighting and private booths kept their conversation contained. His investors would arrive any minute. This couldn't be happening. Not now. My mother died 3 months ago, Emma continued. Breast cancer. Before she died, she told me my father was a successful businessman in Chicago. She wouldn't tell me your name, but she told me about the mark. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Are you my father? The question hung in the air between them. Thomas felt as if he were standing on the edge of a cliff, his carefully constructed life crumbling beneath his feet. No, he finally said. The lie burning his throat worse than the scotch had. But I might know who is. Emma's eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Thomas's mind raced. He needed time, space to think. My father had indiscretions. I recently discovered I have a half-brother, Nathan Callahan. The name came from nowhere. A phantom brother conjured in desperation. He would be about the right age, and he has the same mark. Your half-brother. Skepticism colored Emma's voice. Yes, we weren't raised together. Different mothers. He grew up. Less fortunate than I did. I've been trying to locate him to make amends. The lie grew, taking shape as Thomas spoke. Rachel's description matches him, not me. Why would my mother lie about who my father was? Perhaps she didn't. Perhaps she knew him as a Callahan and assumed. Thomas let the implication hang. Emma's face showed conflict, suspicion warring with the desperate need to believe, to find answers about her identity. Look, Thomas said, pulling out a business card. Take this. Call my office tomorrow. I'll help you find Nathan. Emma took the card slowly, studying his face. You really think this Nathan could be my father? It seems likely, Thomas lied, his stomach churning. The timing, the mark, it makes more sense than... He couldn't bring himself to finish. Over Emma's shoulder, Thomas spotted his investors entering the restaurant. Time was up. I have to go, important meeting. He reached for his wallet, pulled out several $100 bills. For your trouble? Emma didn't take the money. I don't want your money, Mr. Callahan. I want the truth. Tomorrow, Thomas insisted, standing abruptly. Call my office. As he walked away, Thomas felt Emma's eyes boring into his back. His heart raced with a mixture of fear and something else, something he hadn't felt in decades. Shame. He greeted his investors with a practiced smile, but his mind was already formulating a plan. He needed someone to play Nathan, someone convincing but controllable, someone who would take money to lie. Because the truth, that 24 years ago, Thomas Callahan had abandoned a pregnant Indigenous woman named Rachel Parker to pursue wealth and status, was a truth that would destroy everything he'd built. As the dinner progressed, Thomas couldn't help glancing toward Emma, who had returned to her duties, the half-moon birthmark on her wrist occasionally catching the light as she worked, a mark that connected them by blood. No matter how desperately he wished to deny it, Thomas hadn't slept. Dawn found him in his home office, nursing his third cup of coffee while scrolling through a private investigator's database. The Callahan estate sat on 5 acres in Chicago's North Shore, a monument to old money and newer ambitions. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Lake Michigan stretched like a sheet of hammered silver. Mr. Callahan. Linda Walker stood in the doorway, her gray-streaked hair pulled into its usual tight bun. You're up early. Thomas minimized his screen. Couldn't sleep. The Riverside deal? Linda had been the Callahan family's housekeeper for 27 years. She knew Thomas's routines better than he did. I'll bring fresh coffee. When she left, Thomas reopened the database. He needed someone desperate, someone with no connections who'd disappear after playing their part. His search parameters were specific. Male, mid-50s, down on his luck but presentable. No criminal record that couldn't be hidden. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Callahan, Mr. Ramirez is on line 1. Perfect timing. Victor Ramirez specialized in problems that required creative solutions. Victor, I need a favor. Discreet, well paid. My favorite kind, came the smooth reply. Thomas outlined his requirements without explaining why. Victor didn't ask. That's why Thomas kept him on retainer. Give me 2 days, Victor said. I'll find your Nathan. Thomas hung up as Linda returned with coffee. You have that look, she observed, setting down the tray. What look? The one when something's wrong. Linda had a disconcerting way of seeing through him. Mrs. Callahan asked me to remind you about the symphony gala on Friday. The mention of his wife brought a fresh wave of guilt. Teresa, with her social connections and old Boston money, had been the perfect partner in his ascent. She'd given him everything except the children they'd both wanted. The irony wasn't lost on him. The child he'd abandoned now threatened the life he'd built with the woman who couldn't conceive. "Tell Teresa I'll be ready." As Linda turned to leave, Thomas noticed how she paused, her eyes lingering on his watch, the one covering his birthmark. "Is there something else?" "Linda?" "No, sir." But something in her expression made Thomas uneasy. After she left, he opened his wall safe and removed a small box he hadn't touched in decades. Inside lay a single photograph, a young woman with copper skin and high cheekbones, smiling beside a younger version of himself on a Lake Michigan beach. He'd been in law school then. She'd been studying nursing before ambition poisoned everything. He'd burned the rest of their photos, but something had stopped him from destroying this one. Thomas touched her face briefly, then returned the photo to its hiding place. Emma Parker's apartment was a stark contrast to the Callahan estate, a studio above a convenience store in Rogers Park. Sunlight filtered through threadbare curtains as she examined the business card Thomas had given her. "Callahan Real Estate Development," she read aloud. The name meant nothing to her, though she vaguely recalled seeing it on construction sites around the city. Emma opened the wooden box where she kept her mother's things. Photos, letters, and the silver half-moon pendant her mother had always worn. Beneath it all lay an envelope Emma had discovered after her mother's death. Marked for Emma, "When I'm gone." Inside was a worn journal and a brief letter. "My dearest Emma, there are truths I couldn't share while living. Your father is a man who chose his ambitions over us. I don't write this to burden you with bitterness, but to free you from uncertainty. The mark you bear connects you to him, and to a history deeper than either of you know. If you choose to find him, remember who you are first. A daughter of proud people who understand that some bonds cannot be severed, even when denied. All my love." Mom Emma turned to the journal, reading her mother's account of a summer romance with a brilliant law student named Thomas, whose family disapproved of their relationship. When Rachel became pregnant, Thomas had promised to stand by her. 2 weeks later, he'd ended things, offering money for an abortion. Rachel had refused and returned to her community to raise their child alone. The journal confirmed what Emma had suspected, seeing Thomas's reaction at the restaurant. He was lying. Her phone rang. Her roommate, Lily. "Hey, how was the late shift?" Lily asked. "Weird. I think I met my father." "Wait, what? The guy your mom never talked about?" "Yeah, he denied it. But he has the same birthmark. He claimed it might be his half-brother." "That sounds like a brush-off." "I know," Emma sighed. "He gave me his card, said to call today." "Are you going to?" Emma hesitated. "I have to know, Lily, even if the truth sucks." After hanging up, Emma dialed the number on the card, her heart pounding. "Callahan Real Estate. How may I direct your call?" "Thomas Callahan, please, it's Emma Parker." A pause. "One moment." The line clicked, and Thomas's voice came through, carefully controlled. "Emma, I was hoping you'd call. I have good news." Linda Walker moved silently through the Callahan house, dusting surfaces that didn't need dusting. 27 years in this house. Watching, waiting, gathering information on the family that had stolen her tribe's land. Her real name wasn't Linda Walker. That identity had been created the day she'd applied for the housekeeper position. Determined to find evidence of the Callahans' crimes, her sister Alice had died believing justice would never come. Now Linda wondered if fate had finally shifted in their favor. She'd recognized Emma instantly at the restaurant. The girl was the image of her mother Rachel, who had been a friend of their tribe. Rachel had left suddenly years ago, pregnant and heartbroken. The pieces were finally connecting. And that birthmark, the half-moon that marked those descended from the original signatories of the treaty the Callahans had violated. Linda had nearly gasped when she saw it on Emma's wrist. Linda had heard enough of Thomas's phone conversation to know he was orchestrating some kind of deception. She moved to the study door, listening. "Yes, I've found him. Nathan's eager to meet you," Thomas was saying. "He's been ill, recovering at a private facility upstate. I can arrange a meeting this weekend." Linda retreated as Thomas ended the call. She needed to warn the girl somehow, but first, she needed to find the diary. her grandmother's account of the Callahan betrayal, rumored to be hidden somewhere in this house, accessible only to those with the half-moon mark. With Emma's appearance, Linda felt the weight of decades of patience might finally be rewarded. In a rundown motel on the outskirts of Chicago, Victor Ramirez sat across from Walter Simmons, a former theater actor whose career and health had collapsed simultaneously 5 years ago. "It's simple," Victor explained. "You play Nathan Callahan, long-lost brother of a wealthy businessman, meet the girl, confirm you're her father, then develop health complications that require you to travel abroad for treatment. Mr. Callahan will cover all expenses plus $50,000 when you're done." Walter studied the script Victor had provided, a fictional life story of Nathan Callahan, complete with details that would match whatever Rachel Parker might have told her daughter. "And what's the catch?" Walter coughed, his thin frame shaking. "No catch, just convincing performance and absolute discretion." Walter smiled sadly. "A final role before the curtain falls. How poetic." Victor didn't mention the stage 4 cancer Walter was hiding. Thomas Callahan had been specific. He wanted someone who wouldn't be around long enough to complicate matters. "So we have a deal." Victor slid a contract and an envelope of cash across the table. Walter took the pen. "When do I meet my daughter?" Linda waited until the house fell silent that night. Teresa had taken a sleeping pill, her usual routine, and Thomas was working late at the office. With practiced stealth, Linda moved through the darkened mansion toward the master bedroom. She slipped inside and headed straight for Thomas's closet, at the back, behind custom suits arranged by color, was his private safe. Linda had memorized the combination years ago, watching through a crack in the door during one of his late-night sessions. She turned the dial carefully. 10/27/63, his father's birth date. The safe swung open. Linda quickly sorted through documents, searching for anything related to her tribe's land. Instead, she found the small box containing the photograph of Thomas and Rachel. She studied it in the dim light, her throat tightening at the sight of her friend's smiling face. "So it was you," she whispered, the connection finally clear. Rachel had fallen in love with their enemy. Linda replaced everything exactly as she'd found it. The diary wasn't here, but now she had another piece of the puzzle. Back in her quarters, a modest apartment above the garage, Linda opened her own hidden compartment beneath a floorboard. She removed a worn leather pouch containing old photographs, letters, and a small notebook. She flipped to a hand-drawn map showing the original boundaries of their tribal lands. 12,000 acres of prime lakefront property, now occupied by luxury developments, including Callahan's prize Riverside Heights project. Next to the map was a faded photograph of 2 women in their 20s, Linda and her sister Alice, standing before their grandmother's cabin. Both wore the silver half-moon pendants marking them as descendants of Chief Mooncloud, signatory of the original treaty with the U.S. government. "I'm getting closer, Alice," Linda whispered to her sister's image. "The girl has the mark. She might be our way to find the diary." 27 years ago, after developers had seized their land through forged documents, Alice had fought through legal channels while Linda chose a different path, infiltrating the Callahan household to find proof of their crimes. Alice had died of heartbreak 5 years later, but Linda had continued their mission. The diary was the key. Their grandmother's account of the original treaty, including the confession of Gerald Callahan, Thomas's grandfather, admitting to document forgery, according to tribal elders. Gerald's wife had hidden the diary somewhere in the Callahan home, accessible only to those bearing the half-moon birthmark, a mark that ran through both families before the betrayal. Linda touched her own wrist, where the mark would have been had she been born with it. In their tribe, the mark appeared only in certain bloodlines, those descended from the treaty signatories. She hadn't inherited it, but Rachel had, and now, so had Emma. "The circle closes," Linda murmured, replacing her treasures. Tomorrow, she would find a way to make contact with Emma. Emma paced nervously outside the private room at Lakeside Restaurant. Thomas had arranged this meeting with Nathan, her supposed father, at this upscale establishment overlooking Lake Michigan. "You came!" Thomas appeared beside her, immaculate in a charcoal suit. "Did you think I wouldn't?" Emma challenged, noticing how he deliberately kept distance between them. "Nathan's inside. He's frail, The years haven't been kind to him. Thomas's expression was unreadable. I should prepare you. He didn't know about you until recently. When I found him last year, he was living on the streets, his health broken. Emma felt a flicker of suspicion. How convenient. Excuse me? Nothing. She squared her shoulders. Let's do this. Thomas opened the door to a private dining room. By the window sat a thin man with silver-streaked hair. Despite his obvious ill health, he had an elegant bearing. When he turned toward them, Emma's heart skipped. There on his wrist was a half-moon birthmark identical to hers. Emma, the man said, his voice surprisingly resonant. You look just like your mother. Something in his tone made Emma pause. It sounded rehearsed, like an actor hitting a mark. Nathan, this is Emma Parker, Thomas said formally. Rachel's daughter. Walter, playing Nathan, extended a trembling hand. I've waited so long for this moment. Emma took his hand, studying his face. Did you know my mother well? We met at a summer powwow near Lake Michigan, Walter recited, following the script Victor had provided. She was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. We had a brief but intense relationship. When she told me she was pregnant, I panicked. His eyes dropped in practiced shame. I was struggling with addiction then. I thought she'd be better off without me. Emma felt oddly cold despite the room's warmth. My mother never mentioned addiction. Walter recovered smoothly. She wouldn't have. Rachel was always protecting others, even at her own expense. She said my father had the same birthmark, Emma said, gesturing to her wrist. Walter displayed his own mark, meticulously created by a theatrical makeup artist that morning. A Callahan family trait. Shows up every few generations. How did you end up homeless if you're from a wealthy family? Emma pressed. Thomas interjected. Our father disowned Nathan after he dropped out of college. Cut him off completely. While Thomas got everything, Walter added with convincing bitterness. By the time I got clean, years had passed. I tried looking for you and Rachel, but you'd disappeared. We lived on the reservation until I was 10, Emma said, then moved to Chicago for Mom's nursing job. Walter nodded as if this confirmed something. I looked on the reservation first. They said you'd gone. Emma studied this man claiming to be her father. He knew details about her mother that gave his story credibility, yet something felt off. She removed her mother's journal from her bag. Mom kept a journal during her pregnancy. She mentions my father often, but never by name. A small lie. The journal clearly named Thomas, but Emma wanted to see their reactions. Walter didn't flinch. Rachel and I agreed it was better that way, for everyone's protection. Thomas checked his watch. I have a meeting across town. Why don't you two get acquainted? The meal's been arranged. After he left, Emma faced Walter. Tell me something about my mother that wouldn't be in public records. Walter smiled sadly. She sang in her sleep, little humming melodies, and she collected smooth stones from lake shores, kept them in a blue jar on her windowsill. Emma felt the blood drain from her face. Both details were correct. How do you know that? I told you, we were in love. Those details stay with you. For the next hour, Walter played his role perfectly, sharing stories that matched what Emma knew while adding plausible details. He even produced old photographs, actually Walter's own from the 70s, altered by Victor's team to include background elements from the reservation. By the time lunch ended, Emma's certainty had eroded. Walter's performance was flawless, down to the occasional cough that hinted at serious illness. I'm staying at Thomas's guest house while I undergo treatment, Walter explained. Lung cancer. The doctors give me 6 months, maybe less. He reached for her hand. I know this is overwhelming. Take time to process it. I'll be here when you're ready to talk more. As Emma walked home, her mind churned with conflicting emotions. The man had her birthmark, knew intimate details about her mother, and his timeline matched. Yet her intuition screamed that something wasn't right. She stopped at a small park and opened her mother's journal again, rereading the passages about Thomas, the description of his ambition, his conflict between love and family expectations, matched the man she'd met at the restaurant. A pressed flower fell from between the pages. A prairie violet, her mother had written that Thomas had given her this on their last night together, promising they'd build a future despite his family's objections. 2 days later, he'd ended everything. Emma held the delicate, preserved flower. One man had her birthmark but felt like a stranger. The other matched her mother's description perfectly, but denied everything. She needed more evidence. Unnoticed across the street, Linda Walker watched Emma from her car, gathering courage to approach the girl who might be their tribe's last hope for justice. Walter sat in the guest house bathroom, coughing until his ribs ached. He wiped blood from his lips, studying his haggard reflection. The makeup concealing the worst of his pallor was beginning to fail, just like his body. A final performance, he murmured, adjusting the fake birthmark on his wrist. The role of Nathan Callahan might be his most convincing yet, not because of his acting skills, but because he'd infused the character with his own regrets. He too had abandoned someone once, a son who'd tried to reconnect before Walter's pride pushed him away. A sharp knock interrupted his thoughts. Thomas Callahan entered without waiting for a response. "How did it go?" Thomas's tone was all business. "She's suspicious, but coming around." Walter swallowed another cough. "She has her mother's journal." Thomas froze. "What journal?" "Rachel kept a diary during her pregnancy. Emma didn't show me what's in it, but she's using it to verify details." Thomas paced the small room. "Does it mention me by name?" "Emma didn't say. But she's testing both of us, Thomas. She's smart." Thomas loosened his tie, suddenly finding it difficult to breathe. "Stick to the script. We just need to maintain this long enough for her to lose interest, or..." He stopped abruptly. "Or for me to die," Walter finished with a bitter smile. "Don't worry, that's happening right on schedule." Thomas had the decency to look uncomfortable. "You'll be compensated generously. Your beneficiaries will want for nothing." "I have no beneficiaries," Walter said quietly. "That's why I took this job." Thomas checked his watch. "We're having dinner with Emma tomorrow night. Teresa will be there. She knows the basics of our story. Don't contradict anything I've told her." After Thomas left, Walter stared at the orange bottles lined up on the bathroom counter. His pain medication was running low, and the agony was becoming unbearable. The doctors had offered hospice, but Walter had refused. Better to go out playing a role than withering away in a hospital bed. He swallowed 2 pills with shaking hands. Just a few more weeks of this charade, and then the final curtain. He wondered if there was an afterlife where he might meet the real Nathan Callahan and apologize for stealing his identity. Linda Walker had followed Emma to a small coffee shop near the university campus. For 3 days, she'd observed the girl's routine, looking for an opportunity to make contact away from Thomas's watchful eye. Today might be her chance. Emma sat alone, reading from her mother's journal. Linda gathered her courage and approached. "Excuse me," she said softly. "You're Emma Parker, aren't you?" Emma looked up, instantly wary. "Do I know you?" "No, but I knew your mother and I work for the Callahan family." Linda kept her voice low. "My name is Linda Walker. I was friends with Rachel before she left the reservation." Emma's eyes widened. "Sit down, please." Linda slid into the chair across from Emma. "I don't have much time. Thomas doesn't know I'm here." "Why are you approaching me like this?" "Because Thomas Callahan is lying to you." Linda held Emma's gaze. "And so is the man claiming to be Nathan." Emma's fingers tightened around her coffee cup. "How do you know?" "I've worked for the Callahans for 27 years. There is no brother named Nathan. Thomas is your father." Emma wasn't as surprised as Linda had expected. "I suspected as much. The journal names Thomas directly." "Then why are you playing along with their charade?" "I want to understand why he's going to such lengths to deny me." Emma touched her birthmark. "And I want to know what this means. My mother said it connected me to a history I needed to discover." Linda felt a surge of hope. "It does. The half-moon mark belongs to descendants of those who signed the original treaty for our tribal lands. Lands the Callahans stole through forged documents. Our tribal lands. You're from my mother's tribe." "Yes. Your mother was my friend. When she left pregnant with you, we lost touch. I came to work for the Callahans to find proof of what they did." Emma leaned forward. "What proof?" "A diary written by Thomas's grandmother, containing a confession from his grandfather about the forged documents. According to our elders, it's hidden somewhere in the Callahan house, in a compartment that can only be opened by someone bearing the half-moon mark. That's hard to believe. The mark you bear was once considered sacred, a sign of those chosen to protect our people's legacy before the betrayal. The Callahans and our tribe were allies. Thomas's great-grandfather married a woman from our tribe. That's why some Callahans have the mark." Emma seemed overwhelmed. "What are you asking me to do?" "Help me find the diary. It's our only chance to reclaim what was stolen. Before Emma could respond, her phone buzzed with a text. She checked it, her face paling. It's from Thomas. He says Nathan's been hospitalized. His condition is critical. Linda wasn't surprised. The perfect way to end their deception? Emma gathered her things. I need to see for myself. Be careful, Linda warned, and call me when you're ready to hear the full story. Thomas paced the private hospital corridor, phone pressed to his ear. What do you mean, unexpected complications? He was supposed to stay alive long enough to establish a relationship with Emma, then quietly go overseas for treatment. Victor Ramirez's voice was calm. Cancer's unpredictable, Mr. Callahan. The doctors say his organs are shutting down. Thomas swore under his breath. Walter's premature death threatened everything. He'd planned a careful exit for Nathan. A tearful goodbye followed by expensive treatment in Switzerland, where he would eventually pass away, leaving Emma with closure and Thomas with his secret intact. Keep him alive until I get there, Thomas ordered. Ending the call, he strode into the conference room where his executive team waited with the Riverside Heights investors. Gentlemen, I apologize, but there's a family emergency. My brother is critically ill. The lead investor frowned. Brother, your file indicated you were an only child. Half-brother, Thomas corrected smoothly. Recently discovered, if you'll excuse me, we'll need to reschedule. As the room cleared, Thomas's chief financial officer lingered. Thomas, the zoning commission is asking questions about the Riverside property's original ownership, something about historical tribal claims. Thomas froze. What claims? Some local tribe is suggesting the land was improperly acquired decades ago. Probably nothing, but the timing is problematic with the groundbreaking next month. Handle it, Thomas snapped. Pay whoever needs paying. As the CFO left, Thomas felt a crushing pressure in his chest. First Emma, then Walter's decline, now questions about the land. It was too much coincidence. He loosened his tie. Struggling to breathe, the pressure intensified, radiating down his left arm. He reached for his phone but missed, knocking it to the floor as he collapsed into a chair. Mr. Callahan. His assistant appeared in the doorway, eyes widening in alarm. Oh my God. Thomas wanted to respond, but no words came. The room tilted sideways as he slid from the chair. The last thing he heard was his assistant shouting for help as darkness closed in. Emma arrived at the hospital to find chaos. Emergency personnel rushed toward the executive wing while security guards blocked access. What's happening? She asked a nurse hurrying past. Some big-shot developer collapsed. Heart attack, they're saying. Emma felt a chill. Thomas Callahan. The nurse nodded before rushing away. Emma stood frozen in the lobby, her world shifting again. The man claiming to be her father lay dying in one room, while her actual father, if Linda and the journal were to be believed, fought for his life in another. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The pieces are moving. Time is short. Linda. Emma took a deep breath and headed for the information desk. One way or another, she would uncover the truth that both men were trying so desperately to hide. The cardiac unit of Northwestern Memorial Hospital hummed with controlled urgency. Emma sat in the waiting area, caught between two rooms housing two different men, both connected to her by blood or lies, or both. A nurse approached. Are you family of Mr. Callahan? Emma hesitated. Yes. Room 412. He's stabilized, but visitors are limited to 5 minutes. Emma nodded, then asked, What about Nathan Callahan? The nurse checked her tablet. Room 427? Critical condition, family only. As the nurse left, Emma faced her dilemma. Which room first? The man she knew was lying, or the man who might be dying before she learned the truth. She chose Thomas. Room 412 was dimly lit, monitors beeping steadily beside the bed. Thomas Callahan looked diminished against the white sheets, his commanding presence reduced by hospital gown and oxygen tubes. His eyes were closed, his breathing shallow. Emma stood at the foot of his bed, studying the man who might be her father. Without his tailored suit and practiced confidence, he seemed almost ordinary. Just a man in his 50s facing mortality. His eyes fluttered open, focusing slowly on her. Emma. His voice was a rasp. The nurse said I had 5 minutes, she said, moving closer. I thought I'd split my time between you and Nathan. A flicker of something. Guilt. Fear crossed Thomas's face. Nathan, how is he? Critical, they said, just like you. Emma held up her mother's journal. I've been reading this. Thomas's heart monitor spiked, the beeping accelerating. Mom named you Thomas, not Nathan. Detailed your relationship, your promises, the moment you left her. Emma kept her voice steady despite the emotion churning inside her. The journal says you gave her a prairie violet the night before you ended things, said it represented hope for your future together. Thomas turned his face away, but Emma continued. The next day, you told her your family would never accept her, offered her money to take care of the problem, her words. Not mine. I was young, Thomas whispered. Scared. So was she, 21, pregnant, abandoned. Emma moved to the side of the bed where he couldn't avoid her gaze. Why the elaborate lie about Nathan? Why hire an actor? Thomas's eyes widened. You knew. Not immediately, but the more I talked to him, the more his performance felt rehearsed. Emma leaned closer. Tell me the truth, Thomas. Am I your daughter? The monitors beeped faster. A nurse glanced through the window, concerned. Lower your voice, Thomas pleaded. My heart. Your heart, Emma repeated. Is that what's failing? Or is it your courage? Thomas closed his eyes, defeat etching itself across his features. When he opened them again, they glistened with unshed tears. Yes, he whispered. You're my daughter. The simple admission, after so much deception, struck Emma like a physical blow. She sank into the chair beside his bed. Why deny me? I'm an adult. I wasn't coming to demand anything from you. It's complicated. Uncomplicated. I deserve that much. Thomas adjusted himself painfully in the bed. My family, the Callahan name, it's all built on appearance, the right schools, the right connections. When I met your mother, I was still finding my way. She was everything real in a world of pretense. But not good enough for the Callahans, Emma said flatly. My father made that clear, said he'd cut me off if I didn't end it. I had student loans, no way to support myself, let alone a family. Thomas's voice strengthened with defensiveness. I made a choice, and spent 24 years hiding from the consequences. Emma stood up. Did you ever think about us? Wonder if I was born, if we were okay. At first, constantly, Thomas admitted. I hired someone to check on you discreetly, learned you were healthy, that Rachel had support from her community, and that eased your conscience enough to forget us completely. I never forgot. Thomas's hand moved to his watch, adjusting it to cover his birthmark. Every time I see this mark, I remember what I threw away. Emma studied him, searching for any resemblance to herself in his features. And now what? You've admitted the truth? What happens next? Please, Thomas whispered. No one can know. Not yet, my wife. My investors! A nurse appeared in the doorway. Time's up, mister. Callahan needs rest. Emma gathered her things. I'll check on Nathan, or whatever his real name is. Then we'll finish this conversation. As she turned to leave, Thomas called out weakly. Emma, wait. She paused at the door. The man in 427. His name is Walter Simmons. He's dying of lung cancer. The deception was my idea, not his. He just needed the money. Emma nodded once, then left without looking back. In room 427, Walter Simmons lay unconscious, the fake birthmark on his wrist now gone, washed away during medical procedures. The monitors showed declining vital signs. Emma stood beside his bed, feeling an unexpected sadness. This stranger had been willing to be the father Thomas refused to be, even if only as a performance. I'm sorry you got pulled into this mess, she told his unconscious form. I hope the money was worth it. As she turned to leave, Walter's eyes opened slightly. Not for money, he whispered, his voice barely audible. For atonement. Emma moved closer. What do you mean? I abandoned my own son too late to fix, but through you, he coughed weakly. I could play the father I should have been. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. Rest now, save your strength. Walter's hand twitched toward hers. Thomas, is afraid, not just of scandal, something else, about the land. What about the land? But Walter's eyes had closed again, his breathing becoming more labored. A nurse entered, checking his vitals with concern. You need to leave, miss. He's declining rapidly. In the hallway, Emma leaned against the wall, processing the two conversations. Land. Walter had mentioned land, and Linda had talked about stolen tribal lands. Emma. She turned to find an elegant woman in her 50s approaching, designer handbag clutched tightly. "I'm Teresa Callahan, Thomas's wife. They told me you were here." Teresa's perfectly composed appearance couldn't hide her distress. "How is he?" "Stable," they said. "I just spoke with him." Teresa studied Emma with undisguised curiosity. "And you are?" Emma hesitated, honoring Thomas's plea despite her anger. "A friend of the family. I work at the Golden Crown where Thomas dines." "I see." Teresa clearly didn't believe her, but was too well-bred to press. "And you're visiting Nathan as well?" "Yes, I'm afraid he's not doing well." Teresa sighed. "Such a bizarre situation. Thomas never mentioned a brother until last week. Now I have a brother-in-law I've never met who's dying down the hall from my husband. Life is full of surprises," Emma said carefully. Teresa's gaze sharpened. "Indeed it is, you know. You look familiar somehow." Emma felt a chill. "I should go. Please tell Thomas I'll check back tomorrow," as she walked away. Emma could feel Teresa's eyes on her back. The web of lies was unraveling faster than Thomas could repair it. Outside the hospital, Emma called Linda. "They both confirmed it," she said. When Linda answered, "Thomas is my father, and the man called Nathan is an actor named Walter." "And the diary?" Linda asked urgently. "Neither mentioned it, but Walter said something about Thomas being afraid of something connected to land." Emma lowered her voice. "Tell me everything you know about the stolen tribal lands and this diary we need to find." "Not on the phone," Linda replied. "Meet me tomorrow. There's something else you should know." Thomas's wife is starting to ask questions. If she discovers the truth before we find the diary, Thomas will make everything disappear. After hanging up, Emma stared back at the hospital. Inside lay two men, one who had given her life then rejected her, another who had pretended to be her father as an act of proxy redemption. Both were dying in their own ways. And somewhere in the middle stood Emma, bearing a mark on her wrist that connected her to a history larger than her own pain, a history she was only beginning to understand. The cafe where Linda had arranged to meet was tucked away in a neighborhood that straddled the border between gentrification and forgotten Chicago. Emma arrived early, choosing a corner table with a view of both entrances. Linda appeared precisely at noon, dressed in her housekeeper's uniform. "I can't stay long. Teresa thinks I'm running errands." "How's Thomas?" Emma asked, surprising herself with the concern in her voice. "Coming home today. The doctors say he needs rest, but he's insisting on working from home." Linda's eyes were tired. "Walter Simmons passed away this morning." Emma felt an unexpected pang of loss. He didn't deserve to be pulled into this mess. "Few of us deserve the roles we're given." Linda placed a small leather pouch on the table. "This belonged to your mother." Emma opened it to find a silver pendant with the half-moon symbol. "Mom used to wear this. She gave it to me for my 16th birthday, but I lost it during a swim meet. This is her original one. She left it with me before leaving the reservation." Linda's voice softened. "She said if anything happened to her, I should make sure you received it along with our history. You said you'd tell me everything." Linda nodded, glancing around to ensure no one was listening. "The land where Callahan's Riverside Heights is being built was once part of our reservation, the most valuable section with access to fresh water and fertile soil. In 1957, Gerald Callahan, Thomas's grandfather, produced documents showing our tribal leaders had sold that land decades earlier. But they hadn't. No, the documents were forgeries. Our tribal leaders challenged them in court, but Gerald Callahan had powerful connections. The judge ruled in his favor. And our people were forcibly relocated. That's horrible. But what does it have to do with a diary? Gerald's wife, Margaret, discovered the truth. She was born with the half-moon mark, from a branch of our tribe that had married into white society generations earlier, when she learned what her husband had done. She documented everything in her personal diary, including his confession. And this diary is somewhere in the Callahan house." Linda nodded. "According to our elders, Margaret created a hidden compartment that could only be opened by someone with the half-moon birthmark, a safeguard to ensure the truth would eventually come to light through the right hands. That seems far-fetched. Our people believe the mark carries certain connections, abilities that science doesn't recognize." Linda smiled at Emma's skepticism. Whether you believe in that or not, the diary exists. I've spent decades searching the house. I've found clues suggesting it's in Thomas's study. But I've never discovered the compartment. Emma fingered the pendant. And you think I can find it because of this birthmark? I think you're meant to find it. Your mother believed that too. If this diary is real, and if it contains what you say, it could ruin Thomas. Yes, the statute of limitations on the original fraud has expired. But the resulting land deals, including Riverside Heights, could be invalidated. Thomas would lose everything. Emma stared at her half-moon birthmark. He's still my father, and he abandoned you and your mother without a second thought. Linda reminded her gently. Our entire tribe has suffered for generations because of his family's greed. What do you want me to do? Come to the house. Teresa has invited you. Emma blinked in surprise. What? Why would she do that? She called the Golden Crown this morning, asking about you. Your manager mentioned you were taking time off to deal with a family matter. Teresa was intrigued. She asked me to contact you with an invitation to dinner. Does she suspect who I am? I'm not sure. She might just be curious about your interest in Thomas and Nathan. Either way, it's our chance to search the study. Emma considered her options. When is this dinner? Tonight at 7. Linda reached across the table to grasp Emma's hand. This may be our only opportunity once Thomas is back on his feet. He'll make sure you never get near that house. I'll do it, Emma decided. Not just for you or the tribe, but for my mother, and for myself. I deserve to know the whole truth. Teresa Callahan supervised the dinner preparations with military precision. The table was set with Wedgwood china and sterling silver, fresh flowers arranged in crystal vases. Linda, make sure Thomas takes his medication before dinner, she instructed, and tell him our guest will be arriving at 7. Yes, Mrs. Callahan. Linda moved efficiently through the kitchen, her face betraying nothing of her anticipation. Teresa paused, studying her housekeeper. You've known this Emma Parker before, haven't you? Linda kept her expression neutral. I believe she waited on Mr. Callahan at the restaurant several times. That's not what I asked. Teresa's tone was sharp but controlled. There's something familiar about her. I can't place it. But I will. I'm sure I don't know what you mean, ma'am. Teresa smiled thinly. 27 years in this house, Linda. You've been the perfect servant. Invisible when needed, present when called. Yet suddenly you're arranging dinner invitations with young waitresses who visit my husband in the hospital. Mrs. Callahan, don't. Teresa raised a manicured hand. Whatever game is being played, I'll discover it. I always do. As Teresa left the kitchen, Linda exhaled slowly. The woman had built her reputation in Chicago society on her ability to uncover secrets. Time was running shorter than she'd thought. Don Thomas sat in his study, reviewing Riverside Heights documents despite his doctor's orders to rest. The development represented his legacy. 3,000 luxury units on prime lakefront property, all built on land that had been in dispute long before he was born. A knock interrupted his thoughts. Come in. Teresa entered, closing the door behind her. You should be in bed. The zoning commission won't wait because I had a heart attack. He shuffled papers nervously. How are the dinner preparations coming? Perfectly, as always. Teresa sat across from him. Thomas? Who is Emma Parker? He kept his expression carefully blank. A waitress from the Golden Crown, she was kind to Nathan, visited him in the hospital. And that's all. What else would there be? Teresa studied her husband of 22 years. She'd overlooked his occasional indiscretions, understanding they were merely physical diversions. But this felt different. She looks like someone I've seen before, perhaps in an old photograph. Thomas's hand moved instinctively to his watch, adjusting it over his birthmark. A tell Teresa had noticed over the years whenever he was hiding something. I wouldn't know, he said dismissively. You're a terrible liar. Thomas, you always have been. Teresa stood. I've supported you through everything, protected your reputation, hosted your investors, been the perfect corporate wife. The least you owe me is honesty. Teresa, no. Her voice was ice. You'll rest now at dinner. I'll observe this girl myself. Then we'll talk. After she left, Thomas sat motionless, feeling the walls closing in. He should cancel the dinner, send Emma away. But curiosity and something deeper, Perhaps the whisper of conscience kept him from picking up the phone. He opened his desk drawer, removing the photograph of himself and Rachel. 24 years of hiding it, of pretending that summer never happened. Now their daughter was coming to dinner, wearing Rachel's face like an accusation. The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Callahan, your medication?" "Come in, Linda." The housekeeper entered with a tray of pills and water as she arranged them. Thomas noticed how she avoided meeting his eyes. "Linda, how long have you worked for us?" 27 years, sir. Ever regret it?" The question surprised even him. Linda finally looked at him directly. "We all have regrets, Mr. Callahan. The question is what we do with them." Something in her tone made Thomas uneasy. "What does that mean?" "Just an observation, sir." She placed the water glass beside his pills. "Miss Parker will be arriving in an hour, Mrs. Callahan asked that you dress for dinner." After Linda left, Thomas swallowed his medication, feeling the weight of secrets pressing down on his chest. Emma was coming to his home, the daughter he'd denied, bearing the birthmark that connected them to a history his family had tried to erase. And somewhere in this house, if his grandmother's ramblings were to be believed, was evidence that could destroy everything he'd built. Emma stood before the imposing gates of the Callahan estate, her heart pounding. The silver half-moon pendant felt heavy against her skin, hidden beneath her modest blue dress. She'd debated what to wear to dinner with the father who'd denied her and the wife who didn't know she existed. The gates swung open silently, and Emma drove her battered Honda up the winding driveway. The contrast between her car and the manicured perfection of the grounds wasn't lost on her. She parked beside a fountain, where Linda waited on the steps of the mansion. "Ready?" Linda asked quietly as Emma approached. "As I'll ever be." They entered through a side door, avoiding the main entrance where Teresa was finishing preparations. Linda led Emma through service corridors to a small powder room. "Thomas's study is on the first floor, East Wing. Teresa will give you a tour before dinner. She always does with first-time guests. When you enter the study, look for anything with the half-moon symbol." Linda pressed a small earpiece into Emma's hand. "Put this in. I'll guide you if needed." "This feels like a spy movie," Emma whispered. "In a way, it is. You're infiltrating enemy territory." "He's my father, not my enemy." Linda's expression softened. "I know this is complicated for you, but remember what's at stake for our people." A bell chimed somewhere in the house. "That's your cue," Linda said. "I'll be watching from the service passages." Emma inserted the earpiece and made her way to the main entrance, where Teresa Callahan waited in a black cocktail dress that probably cost more than Emma's monthly rent. "Miss Parker, welcome to our home." Teresa's smile was polished, but didn't reach her eyes. "Thomas will join us shortly. May I offer you a drink?" "Water would be fine, thank you." Teresa led her to a sitting room larger than Emma's entire apartment. "Linda mentioned you work at the Golden Crown. Do you enjoy it?" "It pays the bills while I finish my degree." "And what are you studying?" "Environmental law?" "Focusing on indigenous land rights." Teresa's eyebrows rose slightly. "How specific any particular reason for that focus?" Emma touched her birthmark unconsciously. "My mother was indigenous. I grew up hearing stories about land disputes." "I see." Teresa studied her with unsettling intensity. "You know, you remind me of someone. I can't quite place it." Before Emma could respond, the door opened and Thomas entered. His recent hospitalization showed in his pallor and the careful way he moved, but his expression was tightly controlled as he saw Emma. "Miss Parker, thank you for coming." "Mr. Callahan, I'm glad to see you recovering." Teresa observed their exchange with sharp eyes. "Thomas, why don't you rest while I give our guest a tour? Dinner will be ready in 30 minutes. Thomas looked like he wanted to object, but nodded. "Don't tire her out with the entire house history, dear." As soon as Thomas left, Teresa turned to Emma. "Shall we begin in the West Wing?" The house was built in 1912 by Thomas's great-grandfather. For the next 20 minutes, Teresa led Emma through rooms filled with antiques and artwork, providing rehearsed commentary about each piece's provenance. Emma listened politely while scanning for anything with the half-moon symbol. "And this is Thomas's study," Teresa said finally, opening double doors to a wood-paneled room lined with books. Most of it is original to the house, though Thomas has modernized certain elements. Emma entered, immediately drawn to the large desk positioned before windows overlooking the lake. Above the desk hung a painting of a stern-faced man beside a Native American chief, both pointing toward Lake Michigan. The treaty signing, Teresa explained. Thomas's ancestor and Chief Mooncloud establishing the original boundaries. Family legend says they were more than political allies. Their families intermarried. Emma moved closer to the painting, noticing the half-moon symbol on a pendant worn by the chief. It's beautiful. Yes, though historically questionable, the actual treaty negotiations were less harmonious. Teresa checked her watch. We should head to dinner. Thomas will be waiting. Could I use the restroom first? Of course. Through that door, first left. As soon as Teresa left, Emma heard Linda's voice in her earpiece. The painting! Look behind it! Emma quickly moved to the painting, carefully lifting it from the wall. Behind it was a solid panel of dark wood. I don't see anything, she whispered. Look for an indentation, something that might respond to your mark. Emma ran her fingers along the wood, feeling nothing unusual. Then, at the bottom right corner, she felt a subtle circular depression. She placed her wrist against it. The half-moon birthmark aligned with the depression. Nothing happened. It's not working, she whispered urgently. The pendant. Linda's voice came through. Try the pendant. Emma removed the silver half-moon necklace and pressed it into the depression. A soft click sounded, and a small section of the panel slid open, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside lay a leather-bound book, its cover cracked with age. Emma carefully removed it, her hands trembling. I found it, she whispered, quickly photographing several pages with her phone before returning the diary to its hiding place and rehanging the painting. Emma, Teresa's voice called from the hallway. Dinner is served. The dining room sparkled with crystal and silver, an intimidating display of wealth. Thomas sat at the head of the table, Teresa to his right, Emma to his left. Linda served the first course with professional detachment, though her eyes met Emma's briefly in silent question. So, Miss Parker, Teresa began, I understand you visited my husband in the hospital. How did you know he was there? I happened to be visiting someone else and heard about his collapse, Emma replied carefully. Quite a coincidence. Teresa sipped her wine. And you also visited Nathan, I understand. Yes, we'd met recently. I was sorry to hear of his passing. Thomas shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps we could discuss something else. Why? Teresa asked with dangerous pleasantness. I'm simply getting to know our guest after all. It's not every day we entertain someone who bears such a striking resemblance to a woman in a photograph you've kept hidden for decades. The room went still. Thomas's face drained of color. Teresa. I found it years ago, Thomas. Behind your military service medal in the safe. You and a young indigenous woman at the lake. Teresa turned to Emma. Your mother, I presume. Emma set down her fork. Yes, Rachel Parker. I suspected as much. Teresa's composure remained intact, despite the revelation. The question is, why has my husband been pretending his daughter is a stranger? Thomas looked between the two women, trapped. How long have you known? That you had a child, since I found the photograph. That Emma was that child. Since I saw her at the hospital, the resemblance is unmistakable once you know to look for it. Teresa's voice was level but edged with decades of controlled anger. 22 years of marriage, and you never thought to mention you had a daughter. I didn't think it mattered, Thomas said weakly. Didn't matter. Emma couldn't contain herself. You abandoned my mother when she was pregnant, denied my existence, and hired an actor to pretend to be my father. How exactly does that not matter? Linda appeared in the doorway, ostensibly to serve the next course, her presence a silent reminder of why Emma was really there. I made mistakes, Thomas admitted. Terrible ones. I was young, ambitious. You were a coward, Teresa interrupted coldly, and you've remained one. She turned to Emma. I'm sorry you were denied your father. Whatever his failings, you deserved to know him. Emma was struck by Teresa's unexpected sympathy. Thank you. Now, Teresa continued, since we're clearing the air, perhaps you could explain why you're really here, wearing a tribal pendant identical to the one in Thomas's grandmother's portrait in the upstairs hall. Emma froze. And why my housekeeper of 27 years has been guiding you through an earpiece to search my husband's study. Thomas looked up sharply. What? Teresa smiled thinly. The security system in this house records everything, including the study. I watched the live feed on my phone while excusing myself before dinner. She held out her hand. The diary, please. Emma glanced at Linda, who had gone very still in the doorway. I don't know what you're talking about, Emma tried. Teresa sighed. Please don't insult my intelligence. Linda has been searching for something in this house for years today. You found it? I want to know what it is and why it matters enough for this elaborate deception. Thomas stood abruptly. What diary? What are you both talking about? Linda stepped forward, her facade of servitude finally dropping away. Your grandmother's diary, Thomas. The one containing your grandfather's confession about forging documents to steal our tribal lands. Our tribal lands, Thomas repeated, confusion giving way to dawning comprehension as he looked at Linda. You're not really Linda Walker, are you? My name is Linda Mooncloud. Alice Walker was my sister. Linda's voice carried the weight of decades of patience, and I've waited 27 years for justice. The dining room crackled with tension. Thomas gripped the back of his chair, face ashen. You infiltrated my home, served my family for 27 years as, what, a spy? As someone seeking justice, Linda replied evenly. After your family's lawyers buried our tribal claims in paperwork and legal fees, after my sister died of heartbreak, traditional channels were closed to us. So you violated our privacy, our trust. Thomas's voice rose dangerously, his hand moving to his chest. Thomas, your heart, Teresa cautioned, ever practical even in crisis. Emma stood, looking between the three of them. I think we all need to calm down, Linda. Did you photograph the diary pages? Linda nodded. Yes, and Emma has photos as well. I want to see this supposed diary, Thomas demanded. First, sit down before you collapse, Teresa ordered her husband. He obeyed, his breathing labored. She turned to Emma. You found it in the study just now. Yes, behind the treaty painting. Teresa's lips thinned. Of course, the one place in the house Thomas forbade me to change during redecorating. I need to see what's in that diary, Thomas insisted. Emma pulled out her phone, scrolling to the photos she'd taken. I only had time to capture a few pages. She placed the phone on the table. The first image showed elegant handwriting dated March 15th, 1957. Gerald came home drunk tonight, boasting about his business triumph. When pressed, he admitted to having documents forged to show the northern portion of the Mooncloud lands had been sold decades ago. He laughed about how easily the judge, his golf partner, accepted these papers without question. I am sick with shame that my husband would steal from a people who welcomed me, despite my white heritage, who honored the half-moon mark I bear as a sign of our shared bloodline. I cannot speak out without destroying my family, but I cannot remain silent forever. This truth must survive. The second image showed a crude map of the disputed territory with notations about water access and mineral rights. The third contained a damning paragraph. Gerald confessed that Judge Williams accepted a cabin on Lake Geneva in exchange for ruling in our favor. The tribal council's protests were dismissed without proper hearing. Gerald burned the original treaty documents himself, leaving no evidence of the true boundaries. I write this, knowing it may never be read, but with hope that someday, someone bearing our shared mark will find this record and make things right. Thomas pushed the phone away, his face gray. This proves nothing. My grandmother was unstable in her later years. Everyone knew that. The dates in the diary correspond exactly with court records, Linda said, and the description of the forged document matches what was presented to the tribal council. Circumstantial, Thomas snapped. You'd never win in court with this. Perhaps not, Teresa interjected, surprising everyone. But the court of public opinion requires less evidence. Imagine the headlines, Callahan Empire built on stolen native land. Your investors would run for cover. Thomas stared at his wife in disbelief. You're taking their side. I'm acknowledging reality, Teresa replied coolly. I've spent my life protecting our reputation, Thomas. I know exactly how fragile it is. Emma studied Teresa with new respect. The woman wasn't just a corporate wife. She was the strategist behind the throne. What do you want? Thomas finally asked. Looking between Linda and Emma, Linda answered without hesitation. Return of the northern section of our ancestral lands, the area now slated for Riverside Heights, and acknowledgement of the historical wrong. Thomas laughed bitterly. You expect me to just hand over a billion-dollar development I'd be ruined? You'd survive, Teresa observed. The southern parcels alone are worth millions. And what about Emma? Thomas demanded, trying a new tactic. Is this how you treat your father? Conspire with strangers to destroy me? Emma felt a flash of anger. My father, you denied me until your heart gave out under the strain of your lies. Don't play that card now. Thomas deflated visibly. For a moment, no one spoke. We could make this work, Teresa said finally, her mind clearly calculating options. Position it as a voluntary gesture of reconciliation. The Callahan family acknowledging historical injustice and making amends. We'd take a financial hit. But the goodwill could be leveraged. Thomas looked at his wife with grudging admiration. Always the pragmatist. Someone has to be. Teresa turned to Linda. If we moved forward with such an arrangement, would your tribe be willing to allow the existing portions of Riverside that have already broken ground to continue? With profit sharing and employment guarantees, Linda considered. It's possible the tribal council would need to vote. And what about you, Emma? Thomas asked, his voice softer now. What do you want from all this? The question caught Emma off guard. She'd been so focused on finding the diary, on helping Linda's cause, that she hadn't fully considered what she personally wanted from Thomas. I want the truth acknowledged, she said finally. Not just about the land, but about me. I want you to admit publicly that I'm your daughter. Thomas paled. That would destroy my marriage, I've known about Emma for years, Teresa interrupted. As I said earlier, did you really think I didn't notice the child support payments you tried to hide in the early years? Or your annual business trips to Chicago that coincided with her birthday? Emma's eyes widened. You sent child support. Thomas nodded reluctantly. Until you were 18. Your mother said she'd accept it for your education, but nothing else. She never told me, Emma whispered. She wouldn't have, Linda said gently. Rachel was fiercely proud. She probably put it all in a college fund without ever touching it herself. The revelation shifted something in Emma. Her mother had allowed Thomas some small role in their lives, some minimal responsibility, without ever letting Emma know, protecting both her daughter's heart and her father's secret contribution. I would handle the public acknowledgement carefully, Teresa continued, ever the image manager. Frame it as a reunion story. The businessman who reconnected with his daughter after his heart attack made him reassess his life priorities. Thomas looked at his wife with a mixture of gratitude and shame. Why would you do this for me? I betrayed you. You betrayed me numerous times over the years, Thomas. This is hardly unique. Teresa's voice was matter of fact. Our marriage has always been a partnership more than a romance. I'm simply protecting our joint interests as always. Emma was struck by the complex relationship between these two people. A marriage built on pragmatism rather than passion, yet strong enough to weather revelation after revelation. So, Teresa continued briskly, we have the outlines of an agreement, land repatriation, positioned as corporate social responsibility, public acknowledgement of Emma, framed as family reconciliation, profit sharing for the existing Riverside construction. Anything else? The business-like approach to such emotional topics was jarring, but Emma recognized its effectiveness. Teresa was negotiating a way forward that might satisfy everyone's core needs. Linda spoke up. The diary, we want it returned to the tribe, along with any other historical documents related to our people. Done, Teresa agreed, before Thomas could object. Thomas looked between the three women, outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Don't I get any say in this? You've had decades of says, Emma pointed out. Look where that got us. Thomas was silent for a moment, then nodded slowly. I need to check with my lawyers about the land transfer process. No lawyers yet, Linda said firmly. First, we take the diary to my elders. Then we work out formal terms with the tribal council. I want to see my father's confession with my own eyes, Thomas insisted. Fair enough, Linda conceded. We'll all go to the study and retrieve it properly. As they rose from the table, Emma noticed Thomas sway slightly. Despite everything, she felt a twinge of concern. Are you all right? He looked at her. Really looked at her. Perhaps for the first time. No, he admitted quietly. But maybe I'm finally doing something right. The four of them moved toward the study. An unlikely alliance formed around long-buried truths finally coming to light. The web of lies was unraveling, but something new and unexpected was taking shape in its place. A chance at redemption. Not just for Thomas, but for all of them. Thomas's study felt different now, its secrets exposed. Emma stood before the treaty painting, acutely aware of everyone watching as she removed it from the wall. "There," she said, pointing to the small depression in the wooden panel. Thomas leaned closer, his breathing still labored. "I've worked in this room for 20 years and never noticed that. You weren't meant to," Linda explained. "According to our elders, Margaret Callahan designed it to remain hidden until someone with the mark came looking for it." Emma removed the pendant from her neck and pressed it into the depression. The hidden panel slid open, revealing the leather-bound diary. She carefully extracted it, feeling the weight of history in her hands. "It's real," Thomas murmured, a mix of emotions crossing his face. Teresa examined the hiding place with grudging admiration. "Your grandmother was more resourceful than family stories suggested." They gathered around the desk as Emma opened the diary. The pages were brittle but intact, filled with Margaret Callahan's elegant script. Thomas read entries documenting his grandfather's drinking, his boasts about manipulating the legal system, and finally, his deathbed, fear that he would be punished in the afterlife for what he'd done. "He knew it was wrong," Thomas said quietly. "All these years I convinced myself our family had legitimately acquired that land." "You chose to believe that," Linda corrected. "The rumors about stolen land have circulated in Chicago for decades. You ignored them. As anyone would," Teresa interjected pragmatically. "Thomas wasn't even born when this happened. But I built Riverside Heights knowing there were disputed claims," Thomas admitted. "I thought throwing money at legal delays would make the problem disappear." He looked at Emma. "Just like I did with you." Emma felt a complex surge of emotions. Anger still, but also a strange sense of closure hearing him acknowledge his pattern of avoidance. "The question is what happens now," she said. Thomas took a deep breath. "Teresa's right. We need to get ahead of this. Make it a story of reconciliation rather than exposure." He turned to Linda. "I'll sign the land back to your tribe, publicly. The northern section of Riverside can be redesigned as you see fit." "And Emma," Linda pressed. "Yes?" Thomas said, looking directly at his daughter. "I'll acknowledge you publicly as my daughter. No more hiding." Emma studied his face, looking for deception. Instead, she saw exhaustion and something that might have been regret. "Why now?" she asked. "Is it just fear of exposure?" "Partly," Thomas admitted with unexpected honesty. "But also, seeing you in the hospital, hearing you talk about Rachel, it made me remember the man I was before ambition consumed everything." He touched his chest unconsciously. "This heart attack has been clarifying, very poetic," Teresa remarked, though her voice had softened slightly. "But we need practical next steps. I suggest we draft a statement tonight. Thomas has a press conference scheduled for Riverside next week. We can make the announcement then." "No," Linda said firmly. "The tribal council needs to approve any public statements. Thomas should come to the reservation first. Speak with the elders. Show proper respect." Thomas bristled. "I'm in no condition to." "She's right," Emma interrupted. "This needs to be done right. The Callahans have dictated terms for generations. This time, you need to follow the tribe's lead." Thomas seemed about to argue, then deflated. "When? Tomorrow," Linda said. "I'll make the arrangements." Teresa checked her watch. "It's getting late. Perhaps we should—" She was interrupted by Thomas suddenly clutching his chest, his face contorting in pain. "Thomas," Teresa was at his side instantly. "Can't breathe." He collapsed into his chair, gasping. "Call 911, Teresa ordered, loosening his tie. Emma was already dialing. "My father's having a heart attack," she told the dispatcher, the word father feeling strange on her tongue. "He has a history of cardiac issues." Linda grabbed Thomas's medication from his desk drawer, but his eyes were already rolling back. "Thomas, stay with us," Teresa commanded, her composed exterior cracking for the first time. The paramedics arrived within minutes, working efficiently to stabilize him. As they loaded Thomas onto a stretcher, he reached weakly for Emma's hand. "The mark," he whispered, "was supposed to be a blessing, not a curse. Save your strength," she told him, surprised by the tears pricking her eyes. "The papers, for the land. In my safe, Teresa knows. The combination." As the paramedics wheeled him out, Emma was struck by the realization that despite everything, she didn't want him to die. This father she barely knew, who had denied her until faced with undeniable truth. Teresa grabbed her purse, her movements precise despite the crisis. "I'm going with him." She paused, looking at Emma. "Would you like to come, as his daughter? You have the right." Emma hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, I'll follow in my car," before leaving. She turned to Linda. "The diary, I'll take it to the elders tonight," Linda assured her. "Go, whatever else he's done. He's your father." The hospital corridor felt eerily familiar from just days earlier. Emma sat beside Teresa, both women silent as they waited for news. Hours passed with only brief updates. Thomas was in surgery, his condition critical. "He survived the first one," Teresa said finally, breaking the silence. "He'll survive this too. Thomas has always been stubborn. Is that why you stayed with him, despite knowing about me?" Emma couldn't help asking. Teresa considered the question with surprising thoughtfulness. "I stayed because our partnership worked. Thomas provided wealth and status. I provided social connections and stability." She smoothed her already perfect hair. "And I stayed because I did love him in my way, even after finding out he had a child with another woman. That actually made me feel less inadequate." Teresa's composure slipped, revealing unexpected vulnerability. "We tried for years to have children when it became clear I couldn't conceive. Thomas never blamed me, but I always wondered if he resented me for it." She gave a small, bitter smile. Finding out he already had a child was almost a relief. "The fault wasn't entirely mine." Emma was stunned by this glimpse beneath Teresa's polished surface. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." "No reason you should." Teresa straightened, armor back in place. "What will you do after all this is resolved? Continue your studies?" "Yes, environmental law seems even more relevant now. You could do significant good with the Callahan resources behind you," Teresa observed. "Thomas may be flawed, but his business acumen is genuine. You could learn from him." The idea of working alongside Thomas, learning from him, perhaps even continuing some version of his legacy, had never occurred to Emma. Before she could respond, a doctor approached. "Mrs. Callahan, your husband is out of surgery. He's stabilized, but I'm afraid he's not out of danger." "May we see him?" Teresa asked. "Briefly, he's heavily sedated." They followed the doctor to the ICU, where Thomas lay connected to monitors and tubes, looking smaller somehow against the white sheets. "The next 24 hours are critical," the doctor explained. "The second attack caused more damage than the first. If he survives, he'll need significant lifestyle changes." After the doctor left, Teresa touched Thomas's hand briefly. "Stubborn man," she murmured, then turned to Emma. "I need to make some calls. Would you stay with him? He shouldn't be alone." Alone with her father. Emma pulled a chair beside his bed. His breathing was shallow but steady, his face peaceful in sedation. She studied his features, looking for traces of herself, the shape of his brow, perhaps, the set of his jaw. "You don't get to escape that easily," she told his unconscious form. "We've just found each other. There's too much left to say." She took his hand cautiously, noting how the edge of his birthmark peeked out from beneath his hospital bracelet. The same mark she bore, connecting them across the years of separation. Outside the window, dawn was breaking over Lake Michigan. Emma thought of the diary now on its way to the tribal elders. Of Linda's 27-year mission finally bearing fruit. Of her mother who had carried these secrets to her grave. The circle was closing. Justice, long delayed, was finally approaching. And against all odds, Emma found herself hoping her father would live to see it. To make amends not just with legal documents, but with actions that might begin to heal wounds generations in the making. 3 weeks passed. Autumn painted Chicago's trees in fiery colors as the city continued its relentless rhythm. But for Emma Parker Callahan, as she was now legally known, everything had changed. She stood on the shore of Lake Michigan at the northern edge of what had been Riverside Heights. Watching tribal elders conduct a blessing ceremony, the construction equipment stood silent. Workers sent home when Thomas had signed the papers returning the land to the tribe. "It's really happening," Linda said, joining Emma at the water's edge. She looked different now. Her housekeeper's uniform replaced by traditional dress. Her hair freed from its severe bun. Yes, Emma agreed, though not exactly as we'd planned. Thomas had survived his second heart attack, but emerged changed, physically weaker but somehow spiritually stronger. Upon regaining consciousness, he'd immediately asked for his lawyers, not to fight, but to expedite the land transfer and formally recognize Emma as his daughter. The tribal council had been skeptical at first, suspecting another Callahan deception. But the diary, combined with Thomas's unequivocal public statement, accepting responsibility for his family's wrongdoing, had eventually convinced them. Your mother would be proud, Linda said, not just of the land restoration, but of how you've handled everything. Emma touched the half-moon pendant at her throat. I wish she could have seen it. She sees. Linda nodded toward the ceremony where smoke from sacred herbs rose toward the sky. Our people believe those who have crossed over remain present in moments of justice and healing. From the ceremonial circle, a tribal elder motioned for them to approach. Emma followed Linda, aware of the many eyes upon her. Some curious, some still wary of anyone bearing the Callahan name. Chief Joseph Blackfeather, his face deeply lined with age, addressed the gathering. Today, we reclaim not just land, but truth. For generations, our stories of the stolen treaty were dismissed. Today, those stories are vindicated. He gestured to Margaret Callahan's diary, now preserved in a special case. This record, protected by our ancestors' foresight, has finally completed its journey home. Emma felt a mixture of pride and discomfort. She was proud to have helped restore the land, yet uncomfortably aware of her connection to those who had stolen it. The chief seemed to sense her conflict. Emma Parker Callahan carries two legacies, one of taking, one of belonging. The half-moon mark she bears reminds us that divisions between peoples are never as absolute as some would claim. He extended his hands toward her. We welcome the daughter of Rachel Parker back to her mother's people. Emotion tightened Emma's throat as she stepped forward to accept his blessing. These were her mother's people, a part of her heritage she'd never fully explored. After the ceremony, Emma drove to Northwestern Memorial Hospital for her daily visit with Thomas. She found him sitting up, reviewing documents with Teresa. The ceremony went well, Teresa asked, gathering the papers as Emma entered. Yes, the tribal council is already discussing plans for the land. They're talking about a cultural center, housing, and a clinic. Thomas nodded. Good use of the space. His voice was weaker than before, but his mind remained sharp. The southern parcels are selling better than expected. Our public commitment to Indigenous reconciliation has actually attracted a different class of investor. Teresa smiled thinly. Crisis Management 101. Transform a potential disaster into a marketing opportunity. Despite her cynical tone, Teresa had been instrumental in repositioning the Callahan business as a leader in corporate social responsibility. The press had initially been skeptical, but the unequivocal nature of the land return, no strings attached, no tax gimmicks, had eventually won over even the most critical voices. The doctors say I can go home tomorrow, Thomas informed Emma. That's wonderful. She set down a small gift bag on his bedside table. I brought you something. Thomas opened it to find a smooth stone from Lake Michigan's shore, similar to those Rachel had collected years ago. Your mother's tradition, he said quietly. Yes. She taught me to find one perfectly smooth stone from each place that mattered in my life. This one's from the tribal land, from the shore where you and Mom first met, according to her journal. Thomas held the stone in his palm, his expression distant. I remember that day. The tribal powwow was open to the public. I went on a whim with college friends. He smiled faintly. Rachel was teaching children traditional dances. She was so patient with them. That's what I noticed first. Not her beauty, but her kindness. It was the first time he'd voluntarily shared a memory of Rachel with Emma. She treasured it, filing it away with the precious few stories her mother had told. What happens now? She asked. With your health? The company. I'll be stepping back from day-to-day operations, Thomas explained, creating a new charitable foundation focused on Indigenous education and land rights. It'll need a director. He glanced at her meaningfully. I still have a year of law school left, Emma reminded him. Perfect timing. You can finish your degree, then step into the role. The foundation would benefit from someone with legal training. Emma was touched by the offer, but wary of being absorbed into the Callahan world too quickly. "I'll think about it." Teresa sensed her hesitation. "No pressure, Emma. It's just an option to consider." A nurse entered to check Thomas's vitals, and Teresa used the interruption to pull Emma aside. "There's something you should know," she said quietly. "During the title search for the land transfer, our lawyers discovered something unusual. The original treaty Thomas's great-grandfather signed with Chief Mooncloud included provisions about descendants with the half-moon birthmark. If the treaty had been honored, anyone bearing that mark from either family would have had legal rights to portions of the land." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that under the original agreement, you would have inherited rights to the land regardless of Thomas acknowledging you." Teresa's eyes were shrewd. "Your birthmark wasn't just a mystical connection. It was a legal one that Gerald Callahan tried to erase." Before Emma could process this revelation, they were interrupted by a commotion in the hallway. A man was arguing with hospital security, his voice insistent. "I told you, I'm family, Nathan Callahan. Check your records." Emma and Teresa exchanged alarmed glances. The false Nathan, Walter Simmons, had died weeks ago. They stepped into the hallway to see a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair, dressed in a weathered jacket. When he turned toward them, Emma gasped. There on his wrist was a half-moon birthmark, not makeup, but the real thing. "You must be Teresa," the man said, then looked at Emma, his eyes widening slightly. "And you have the mark too. Who are you?" Teresa demanded. "Nathan Callahan, Thomas's half-brother." He extended his hand, revealing the birthmark clearly. "I've been away a long time. Heard about Thomas's heart attack on the news." "That's impossible," Teresa began. "Thomas doesn't have half-brother through our father," Nathan interrupted. "Mom was indigenous, from the Mooncloud tribe. Dad paid her to disappear when she got pregnant. Sound familiar?" His gaze returned to Emma. "History has a way of repeating itself in our family." Emma felt her world tilt again. Another Callahan, another secret, another bearer of the mark. Behind them, Thomas appeared in his doorway, supported by a nurse, his face drained of color as he saw Nathan. "You," he whispered. "You're real." Nathan smiled without warmth. "Very real, brother, and we have a lot to talk about." In that moment, Emma understood that the story wasn't ending. It was transforming. The half-moon mark had brought her to her father, revealed long-buried truths, and restored ancestral lands. Now it had summoned yet another player in the complex legacy she'd inherited. As she stood between Thomas and this unexpected uncle, Emma touched her pendant. Her mother's voice seemed to whisper from memory. The mark is not just a symbol of what was lost, but a promise of what might be reclaimed. The circle was wider than any of them had imagined, and the promise of justice, of healing, of truth, was still unfolding.